Chiefs Kingdom, this one stung. The final was Dallas 31, Kansas City 28. And while Patrick Mahomes fought hard and you saw flashes of that usual magic, the loss leaves a bitter taste going into the rest of the season. Right away, the headlines. 3 starters left with injuries. Safety. Brian Cook exited with what Andy Reid described as a right ankle injury, Jawan Taylor left with a triceps elbow issue, and rookie Josh Simmons came out late with a wrist problem. And all 3 did not finish the night. Those losses changed the look of the offensive line and the defense in real time, and we'll unpack the impact in a minute. On the scoreboard side, Dak Prescott finished with 320 passing yards, and the Cowboys' top targets combined for the bulk of the damage, while the Chiefs were repeatedly burned on the perimeter and paid for too many undisciplined penalties and too many drives that stalled after reaching Dallas territory. You've already heard the reaction. I'll be honest with you. I graded this one a D-, and I want to hear your grade right now. In the comments, give the Chiefs an A through F and tell me whether you think the injuries or the penalties were the bigger reason we lost. Hit that like button, and if you're new here, subscribe. We're trying to push to 6,000 subscribers, and your subscribe helps us get there. I'll dig into the injuries next and explain why losing those linemen and that safety mattered so much to the flow of the game. The injury picture from Thanksgiving is the single biggest immediate storyline, and it changes how you look at this team this week, and maybe for longer. Andy Reid confirmed after the game that safety Brian Cook left with a sprained right ankle, Jawan Taylor exited with a triceps elbow injury, and rookie left tackle Josh Simmons suffered a wrist injury and did not return. The team's official game release lists those same headline injuries. What makes this especially ugly is context. Trey Smith was already unavailable coming into Dallas with ankle issues, so the Chiefs were already thin up front and had Mike Caliendo in as a starter to replace Smith. And then Taylor and Simmons both come out during the game, leaving Creed Humphrey and younger backups to try to hold the line. Reports after the game were even more concerning about Simmons. NFL reporting indicated Simmons left with a dislocated, fractured wrist and will get further imaging to decide whether surgery or immobilization is required. Local reports are already discussing the possibility he could land on IR. What that looked like on the field was fairly obvious. More pressure on Patrick Mahomes, more hurried throws, and a unit that simply had less cohesion. PFF charting and the analytics show the Chiefs took a heavy dose of pressure. Kansas City recorded a high number of total pressures allowed in this game, and Mahomes was sacked 3 times, including a couple brutal plays when the pocket collapsed late. When 2 starting, tackles exit in-game, the push in the run game evaporates, and protection packages have to change on the fly. Play calls that work with a healthy front suddenly look riskier, and the quarterback's timing is disrupted. That's why you saw drives stall after the Chiefs crossed midfield. The line couldn't sustain lanes, and the offense was forced into shorter, quicker plays rather than the full rhythm they need to finish drives. It also matters defensively. Losing Brian Cook, even temporarily, forced schematic adjustments in the secondary and limited the depth the coaches could use on rotation in obvious passing situations. That contributed to mismatches on the outside late in the game. Andy Reid's post-game comments were measured but blunt. The team must do a better job of taking care of opportunities and staying disciplined. And the coaching staff will need to answer how they protect Mahomes and shore up the O-line over the next 2 days of practice. Immediate watch list for you as a fan. 1. Official MRI and follow-up on Josh Simmons. That update will determine whether he's week-to-week or headed to IR. 2. Reports on Jawan Taylor's triceps. That kind of injury can range from a short absence to multi-week recovery depending on severity. And 3. Whether Brian Cook's ankle is a short sprain or something that lingers. If Simmons does hit IR, the Chiefs will be forced into young depth pieces and jockeying to find pass protection solutions, and that directly affects game plan versus the Texans next Sunday. Quick poll for this chapter. In the comments, vote. Do you think all three, Cook, Taylor, Simmons, will be available for Week 14? Reply with yes, no, or unsure. And one more thing, if you haven't already, subscribe to help push us to 6,000 subscribers, like the video, and drop your vote below. I'll use the results for the Monday deep dive. If the offensive injuries were the headline, the defensive collapse was the plot twist nobody in Chiefs Kingdom wanted to see. This game wasn't just about Dallas making plays. It was about Kansas City's defense losing its structure in the moments that mattered most. You could feel it as the game wore on. The communication slipped, the tackling angles loosened, and the Cowboys figured out exactly where to attack. The biggest problem? Play action and layered route concepts. Dallas repeatedly used motion and misdirection to force the linebackers to hesitate. And once that happened, the middle of the field opened like a runway. Kansas City's safeties were suddenly in conflict on almost every key snap. With Brian Cook leaving the game, the rotation got even thinner, and the Cowboys began hammering the Chiefs with crossers, pivots, and intermediate digs, the exact types of routes that demand tight communication and clean handoffs across zones. Another issue that popped up all night was gap discipline, especially on early downs. Dallas didn't gash the Chiefs with huge chunk runs, but they consistently stole 4, 5, 6 yards at a time. That meant Dak Prescott was almost never in a must-throw situation, and that neutralized one of Kansas City's biggest strengths, Steve Spagnuolo's pressure packages. When the pass rush can't dictate the game, everything else becomes harder, especially for a secondary that's forced to cover longer than the design intends. Then you add the missed tackles. The Chiefs had several drives where the initial contact was there, but the finishing wasn't. Dallas turned short. Plays into chains-moving plays because defenders weren't arriving in packs like they usually do. When the defense is healthy and humming, Kansas City swarms to the ball. On Thanksgiving, they were reacting one step late instead of attacking one step early. One underrated factor. The defensive front looked tired by the fourth quarter. With the offense struggling to sustain drives, that unit spent long stretches on the field. Dallas took advantage with tempo, quick formations, and forcing the Chiefs to stay in personnel groupings they didn't want. When you don't get to rotate your interior guys as much, the middle softens, the edges widen, and quarterbacks like Dak pick you apart. So what does Spags fix first? Expect him to hammer communication and leverage this week. Expect a much heavier emphasis on early down aggressiveness, and expect more disguise at the snap. The Cowboys read Kansas City a little too easily. The Chiefs don't need to reinvent anything, but they do need to snap back into the sharp, disciplined identity that carried them through the first half of the season. For your Chapter 3 engagement, drop this in the comments. Which defensive issue concerns you most? Tackling, communication, or early down softness? Pick one. And while you're here, make sure you subscribe to help push the channel towards 6,000 subscribers and hit like so more Chiefs fans see this breakdown. If you walked away from this game feeling like the offense left points on the table, you're absolutely right. This wasn't a game where Patrick Mahomes played poorly. It was a game where he had to play perfectly just to keep Kansas City afloat. And with the offensive line collapsing and injuries stacking up, perfect simply wasn't possible. Let's start with Mahomes. His pocket movement was sharp early, but as the game went on and protections broke down, his dropbacks became rushed. You could see him start speeding up his internal clock. Even on completions, he was throwing off platform. More than usual because the interior and edges were getting squeezed at the same time. Quarterbacks can overcome one leaky spot. Nobody overcomes 3. That's how you get drives where the Chiefs move the ball between the 20s but stall the moment the field tightens. Then there's Rashee Rice, who continues to be the most reliable chain mover on the roster and the only receiver Dallas truly respected as a threat. The Cowboys shaded coverage toward him on key downs, dropped robber defenders into his window, and disrupted timing on his in-breaking routes. Without a consistent WR2 stepping up, Rice became the focal point of Dallas's game plan, and it worked. Kansas City tried to counter with motion, stacks, and screens, but when the blocking wasn't holding up, those designs fizzled before they even had a chance. The other WR issue is separation. Too many snaps featured blanket coverage, which forced Mahomes to hold the ball, a death sentence with the pass protection as shaky as it was. When the offense is healthy, Mahomes can extend plays and find late windows. When the line is duct-taped together with backups and practice squad guys moving around, extending plays isn't a luxury, it's a gamble. And we have to talk about play calling. Andy Reid and Matt Nagy clearly shifted into a more conservative approach after injuries piled up, relying more on quick game and short concepts to protect Mahomes. But that also meant fewer deep shots, fewer layered route combinations, and fewer chances to stress the Cowboys' secondary vertically. It wasn't bad play calling, it was survival mode play calling, and survival mode offenses rarely win shootouts. The run game didn't help either. Without both starting tackles and with interior shuffling, the Chiefs couldn't generate consistent push. Early down runs too often put the offense behind schedule, setting up second and long and third and long situations where Dallas could tee off on Mahomes. When a defense knows you have to pass and knows your tackles are backups, they pin their ears back and attack with confidence. So what does this mean moving forward? It means the Chiefs must build an offensive plan tailored to whoever is healthy on the line next week. It means finding ways to free up Rice without forcing him to do everything. And it means another receiver, whether it's Brown, Worthy, or Watson, has to step into the spotlight. For the Chapter 4 engagement, drop this in the comments. Which offensive fix should Kansas City prioritize this week? O-line help, more WR rotations, or more aggressive play calling? I'll feature the most popular choice in the next breakdown. And don't forget, hit like to get this video in front of more Chiefs fans, and subscribe so we can push towards 6,000 subscribers and keep this channel growing. This loss doesn't just sting, it changes the math. With the 31-28 defeat in Dallas, the Chiefs sit at 6-6, and they're trailing several AFC teams who currently hold the wild card spots. The Chargers, Jaguars, and Bills are all ahead at 7-4. That combination, a 500 record plus multiple teams ahead of you in the conference, makes Kansas City's path to the postseason significantly harder than it was on Wednesday. On top of the record, the tiebreaker picture isn't friendly. Those three clubs, and others ahead in the bracket, currently occupy the spots that the Chiefs would like to challenge for, and Kansas City has fewer favorable head-to-head or conference edge advantages to lean on right now. Practically speaking, the realistic route back into the postseason is much narrower. The Chiefs can't rely on help. They essentially need to win the games they control and hope the teams ahead stumble. That's exactly the pressure Patrick Mahomes described when he said the team has to win every game now. The injury cloud only compounds the urgency. The team confirmed Brian Cook, sprained right ankle, Jawan Taylor, triceps and elbow issue, and Josh Simmons, wrist. All left Thursday's game and will be evaluated this week. Reporting indicates Simmons' wrist injury is serious enough that the team will do follow-up imaging, and IR is a possibility depending on results. Losing one starting tackle would hurt any offense. Losing two in the same game dramatically raises the stakes for the next few weeks and directly impacts play calling, protection plans, and Mahomes' margin for error. So what should you expect next? First, the immediate focus is the Week 14 matchup. The Chiefs host the Houston Texans next Sunday, and that game now looks like a must-win to keep the door open. Second, watch the injury reports closely this week. If Simmons or Taylor are out multiple weeks, the front office and coaching staff will need to tweak the playbook and possibly shake up the depth chart to protect Mahomes. Third, discipline must return. Penalties and missed third down stops were the difference in this game, and those are fixable in practice and focus. Final takeaway: The season is far from over, but the margin for error has evaporated. The Chiefs still control several outcomes, but now they need both wins and outside help to have a comfortable path. If you want a deeper, numbers-driven Monday breakdown of playoff permutations who Kansas City needs to win, lose, and exact tiebreaker scenarios, say the word and I'll produce it. Also tell me which you want next, a combined single-block narration of this full script, or a doc production file, full, voiceover text without chapter markers, ready for recording. I can make either. Tell me which and I'll deliver it. And before you go, hit like, subscribe, help us reach 6,000 subscribers, and drop in the comments. Do you think the Chiefs make the playoffs? Yes or no? Stay locked with Total Chiefs news. Hail Chiefs!